You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. All right, it was decision day for Darryus McKinley. Darryus McKinley, the younger brother of LSU five-star defensive tackle Dominic McKinley. And this afternoon, as expected, Darryus McKinley, choosing among LSU, Florida, Tennessee, and Texas, did in fact pick your Fighting Tigers of LSU. So the 6'3", 270-pound defensive lineman from Acadiana in Lafayette is going to follow in his brother's footsteps just down I-10 East, and he will be an LSU Tiger. I say this often, so this is not something I'm only saying now because Darryus McKinley is a 3-star. By the way, ESPN has him as a 4-star. But in the composite, which is now the Rivals industry ranking, of course, On3 and Rivals merge, or On3 bought Rivals, so it's now the Rivals industry ranking, which combines all the recruiting services. He is a 3-star, number 477 nationally, the number 48 defensive lineman. But the thing that I always say is I am far less concerned with your star rating, your national ranking, position ranking, all that stuff, than I am with who offered you. And Darryus McKinley chose LSU over Florida, Texas, Tennessee. He also had offers from Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Miami, Baylor, Syracuse, Louisville, Auburn, Missouri. That's a hell of a list. So if all those schools think you can play for them, that's a really good thing. So Darryus McKinley picks LSU. He becomes the 17th commit now for LSU's 2026 signing class. And there's a couple of things here that I think are particularly relevant when we look at McKinley and this class as a whole. So if we talk specifically about where McKinley fits, he is the 17th commit, but he's just the second interior defensive lineman. So Richard Anderson out of Endicott in New Orleans he's now the number 2 ranked interior defensive lineman in the country. Richard Anderson is the other interior defensive lineman committed in this class for LSU. So you've only got 2. It's important to note because a year ago, LSU signed 4. Now, Dylan Battle was one of them, if you remember, from Arlington, Texas. And he signed with LSU, and then Bo Davis left before spring. And so after spring, Dylan Battle went in the transfer portal and left LSU. So it left LSU with just 3 interior defensive linemen from last year's class. But as you look forward, how they've stockpiled the numbers at defensive tackle. So again, remember, we're talking 2026, so not this present season, but for next year. You're going to lose Bernard Gooden, who's a 5th-year senior, the transfer from South Florida, and you're going to lose Jacobian Guillory, who's a 6th-year senior. So those 2 guys are going to be gone. They're going to be out of eligibility. Both Sadir Mitchell and Sean Washington will have another year, should they choose to use it. Sadir Mitchell's actually got 2 more years if he wants, but in any event. Both could leave after this year, but both could be back. Dominic McKinley and Ahmad Bro will both be back for their junior seasons next season. That's 4. You've got the 3 guys that I just mentioned that are part of this most recent class for LSU, the 2025 class, the freshmen right now. Brown, Mathis. And then you're talking about adding this class of Richard Anderson and now Darryus McKinley. That puts you at 9. In theory, if nobody else leaves, 9 defensive tackles for next year on the interior. That is really good depth. And you could always find yourself looking for an impact player in the transfer portal should you need it. But with, in theory, next year, Dominic McKinley, Ahmad Bro as your junior starters, and then everyone else filling rotational spots behind him, you should be good. But again, if there's someone in the portal you want to go get, you get them, whatever. The other sort of asterisk here is there's one more defensive tackle, interior player, that LSU is still in the mix for, and that's Deuce Geralds. And Deuce Geralds is set to make his announcement on Saturday. So in less than 24 hours, we'll know if Deuce Geralds is going to pick LSU. Now, Shea Dixon was with us earlier this week, and Shea talked about Deuce Geralds, and it seemed like he was just reading the tea leaves with what Shea said, that Geralds might very well be an Oregon lean. If you're not familiar with the background there, Deuce Geralds, he lives in Georgia. His dad is from Scotlandville, played football at Ole Miss. He was recruited by Ed Ogeron and Frank Wilson. So naturally, Coach Frank having the in with Deuce Geralds there to get LSU in the mix. But Geralds is a massive prospect. He's 6'1", 268. He is the guy that carries all the lofty rankings. He's a composite four-star. ESPN ranks him the number 40 overall player in the country at any position. In the Rivals Industry ranking, the composite, he's number 93 and the 8th best defensive tackle. So you're talking about a massive, massive prospect there. Deuce Geralds, which is set to announce on Saturday. If he picks LSU, that would give LSU a 3rd defensive tackle in this year's class for 2026. If he doesn't, I think you still feel good about your numbers. For whatever it's worth, again, it sounded like Shea was saying Gerald's probably leaning Oregon. I had a conversation today with someone close to the LSU program who really felt confident about LSU's opportunity to get him. I have no idea. I've never had a conversation with Deuce Geralds or anyone in his family, coaches, any of that stuff. So I'm not giving you any inside information. I'm just relaying what people close to this situation have said. And so we'll wait and see. I mean, crazy things happen in recruiting, and it's not even, you still got to get these guys, even if they're committed, you got to get them to December when they sign. But just to kind of lay out the numbers. The other thing that I think is significant about landing Darryus McKinley, and sometimes you think these things are a foregone conclusion, but I'll remind you, LSU signed Jacob Bradford in December. Blaine Bradford, his younger brother, the number 1 safety in the country for 2026, picked Ohio State. So sometimes just because you have the older brother on campus, it doesn't mean you're going to get the younger brother. Sometimes players want to forge their own path. That's fine if they do. It's not just in football. That's in school and life and everything. It's fine if they do. And sometimes you get 3 weeks brothers on the same team. Like everyone is different. But when you look at Louisiana, obviously Lamar Brown is the number 1 player in the state. He's the number 2 player in the country, regardless of position. He's committed to LSU. The number 2 player in the state is Blaine Bradford, who we mentioned, who's committed to Ohio State. After that, if you're just looking at the industry composite for the players in Louisiana, of the top 7 players, LSU has 6 of the top 7 committed. They got Lamar Brown committed. Then obviously Blaine Bradford's picked Ohio State. Richard Anderson, Jabari Mack, Bryson Martinez, Aiden Hall, Kenny Darby. 6 of the top 7 are all committed to LSU. And outside of that, they've been able to sort of cherry pick the ones that they want. Des Ellis is committed. He's the defensive back out of Franklin Parish who'll play corner at LSU. Isaiah Washington, who plays quarterback at Haynesville. Remember we talked about him. He's going to be a safety at LSU. And now Darryus McKinley is committed to LSU. So they got the top guys in the state except for Bradford, 6 of the top 7. And then they've been able to cherry pick 3 of the other top guys in the state that they really wanted, which means they're putting together a very solid class. I know this is something we've talked about since Brian Kelly showed up on campus. When he first got here, he tried to build a staff that was sort of half LSU and half Kelly people that knew his culture, his expectations, all that sort of stuff. It has been a total evolution over 3 years, whereby the entire on-field staff are all people with ties to LSU or Louisiana. A lot of the analysts, of course, are Louisiana people. Lance Guidry, we forget, who was the DC at Miami, is now a defensive analyst. You're working with Blake Baker with the linebackers, a guy deeply connected in Louisiana. And then you look at the job that the support staff has done as well in recruiting. Austin Thomas and J.R. Belton, Donovan Tate, an incredible job putting the fence around Louisiana and keeping the best players home. They're clearly doing that here in 2026, with the lone exception being Bradford. And then 27 is just a massive year in the state. I mean, as big as 26 is, you look at 27, Easton Royal is the number 2 receiver in the country. Ahmad Hudson is the number 1 tight end in the country. Elijah Haven is the number 1 quarterback in the country. Albert Simeon is the number 2 interior offensive lineman in the country. He's out of Sam Houston and Lake Charles. I mean, you get the point. Like 27 is a gigantic bumper crop, and you have the crown jewel quarterback in the country in Baton Rouge. So building a staff that knows how to put the fence around the state is massive, and landing Darryus McKinley is another sort of check mark there. The one other little notation there is Darryus McKinley was his primary recruiter is Blake Baker. Secondary recruiter was not Kyle Williams. And now maybe this was just because there was a transition from Bo Davis to Kyle Williams, but his secondary recruiter for Darryus McKinley at LSU was Kevin Peoples, who's obviously coaches the edges at LSU. So there's a chance, I guess, that Darryus McKinley could get on campus and play edge if they need him there. But just when you look at guys like Damian Shanklin, who they recruited in this most recent class, and who they already have coming back with Gabe Relaford a year ago. There's Dylan Carpenter, who's still there as well. So a lot of talent in that edge group. And then in this class of 2026, my goodness, with Lamar Brown, the number one player in the country, another 5-star out of Florida committed in this class. They're loading up on that defensive line. And maybe the best way to say it is LSU went a dozen years having a defensive lineman selected in the NFL draft, and that well is run dry. It feels like when you look at that unit now, that room now, both at tackle and end, it's starting to look like it used to look when LSU was competing for championships every year. And it's a really encouraging sign moving forward. So Darryus McKinley becomes the 17th commit for the 2026 class. We'll wait and see about Deuce Geralds on Saturday, August 2nd, to see if he will become the 18th. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.